We've now looked to some extent at the form of words. We've also looked at their grammatical categories, and that leaves one other major part of the three-part symbol which constitutes a lexeme to be looked at. Let's check again. Here's a dictionary entry for the word imposter. We know that it's a noun, and then it says one who assumes a false character or personality, swindler. Now, is that in fact the meaning of imposter? Well, that's what the dictionary says. In a dictionary, this part of the entry for the word is called a gloss. It's a gloss. But if we think carefully about it, this isn't actually the meaning of the word imposter. It's a phrase or another word with the same meaning as imposter. What the dictionary writer tries to do is, instead of telling you the meaning, which is quite difficult, the dictionary writer gives you something that is more or less the same meaning. Well, when we get sameness of meaning, that's technically termed synonymy, and diagrammatically it looks a bit like this. There's the meaning, one single meaning, here it is, meaning. And down here there are a number of different forms. Form 1, Form 2 and Form 3. In the case of the dictionary entry that we looked at, we've got imposter, which is one form, and swindler, which is another form, and one who assumes the false character, etc., etc., form number 3. The theory is that these all have the same meaning. Well, most native speakers know that that isn't quite the case, because an imposter and a swindler really aren't the same sort of a thing. But the dictionary writer is doing his or her best. Just as when we looked at grammatical categories, we used their inflectional endings as a kind of tool to diagnose whether we had a noun or a verb or an adjective, here we're going to use something called entailment to try and get a handle on different sorts of meaning relationships. Entailment is quite a simple notion, really. It means that if you know the meaning of something, then a number of things follow from that which you don't have to check up. You know them just by virtue of the meaning that, say, in this case, the lexeme has. Synonymy has entailment relationships, and they work like this. Let's suppose that it's true that if John drives a car, then it follows that John drives an automobile. You don't have to look this up. This is just something you know if you know the meanings of the word car and automobile. You know that they are the same. They are synonyms. Well, in the case of this entailment, it works the other way around as well. If John drives an automobile, then it follows that he also drives a car. He doesn't drive two things. They're the same thing. A car is an automobile. So synonymy has entailment effects. So, long ways, we're saying that, quote, John drives a car entails that John drives an automobile, and the reverse entailment also holds. It's also true. So synonymy has an effect, and that effect is you get this reversible entailment. So what happens when we have multiple meanings, as we sometimes do? Here, a single word, a single form, has more than one meaning, and that happens a great deal. One lexeme can have a number of related meanings, more than one. So let's look at Jerry regained his sight. What does sight mean in this particular sentence? Well, it means something like his capacity for vision. And let's suppose that he's had an eye operation and now he's regained a capacity that he previously had, namely his capacity for vision. Well, how's that related to the Southern Alps are a magnificent sight? Well, they certainly haven't regained their vision. But obviously the two meanings are related. If something is a magnificent sight, then it means that you've been able to look at it with your eyes, so regaining your sight and something being a good sight, S-I-G-H-T, those are related. In this case, we would have to say that one form, the form sight, has a number of related meanings. They're slightly different. So what we've got here is one form and a set of related meanings. When you look up a dictionary, you'll find the dictionary indicates these different meanings one below the other, so that you can tell that this word has more than one meaning, particularly if you're looking it up for the first time to check whether it has this other meaning that you think it might have. Well, what happens with accidental similarity of form? That sometimes happens as well. We can get two lexemes which have the same form. The word sight, S-I-G-H-T, and the word S-I-T-E. They may be spelt differently, but they have the same sound. Well, they don't have related meanings at all. Right? They're quite different words, different lexemes. Does that happen? Well, yes, it happens quite a lot to do. It happens quite often, and there's quite a bit of to-do about it. That was my boo-boo. You can make puns out of them. Puns are often made out of these homonyms, as they're called. So homonymy says we've got a word on one side with form number one and meaning number one. We've got another word, form number two, but form number two is actually just like form number one, and it has a completely separate meaning. So let's see if you can tell the difference. The ship was listing badly. What does listing mean here? Well, it's sort of tipping over to one side. We're listing the requirements for the course. Does being tipped over to one side and putting things in a list, are they related? We can't see how. So these must be homonyms. He gave her a diamond ring. His glass left a ring on the table. Well, yes, they're both kind of round. They're sort of donut shaped. They've got a hole in the middle. And we can tell that they're similar in meaning. So they are probably one word and polysemous, more than one meaning. They came to a fork in the road. Right, the road divided. It was one road and then there were two roads. Fork beside a knife, is that? Yes, it probably is, but it's a bit more distant than ring and ring. What about lapping the water? Using your tongue as opposed to a straw, because dogs aren't very good at straws. The cat sat in my lap. Absolutely no relationship at all. Two words lap entirely differently. This cat is not sitting on the mat. This cat is sitting in my lap, which has nothing to do with licking up water with your tongue. And so we have intuitions about these relationships.